Hello and welcome. I'm Joe of Many Trades, and this is FOOC, Fisker Ocean Owner Chronicles, where we try to avoid getting fooked. Today, we're adding a maps display and seeing whether a Yoke-style steering wheel can fix the driver screen visibility problems. Okay, let's launch into it. As an engineer, the solution I would prefer is obvious. Google Maps from Android Auto or Apple CarPlay should appear on the Ocean Center display. But the factory TomTom navigation is dated, and getting modern phone integration onto the Fisker screen is still more complicated than I want this commuter project to become. Until now, I ran Google Maps on my Pixel and mounted the phone on a cup holder mount. The phone handled navigation, Spotify, and calls, while the Ocean handled the audio. It worked, but it was still a phone on a mount. The screen was small and it was down to my right. I realized I was not trying to rebuild the entire Fisker infotainment system. I wanted one thing: Google Maps and the driver's natural sightline. That made the problem much simpler. The Carpuride is a portable 10.26-inch wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay display. It does not run the Ocean, and it does not replace Fisker's software. My phone runs Google Maps. Wireless Android Auto or CarPlay sends the interface to the Carpuride. The Carpuride becomes a dedicated navigation display. The factory driver display housing measures about 10 3/8 inches wide. The Carpuride is slightly narrower, but it is close enough to look intentional when the two screens are centered. The important dimension turned out not to be exact width. It was height and sightline. I first tested it by hand, then with a towel, then with a foam core and printed brackets. I expected the screen to sit 2 or 3 inches behind the factory display. In the car, about 1 inch of setback looked better. It created a second layer without making the Carpuride feel disconnected. The critical test was simple. From my normal seating position, does the top of the Carpuride rise above the hood line and block any usable view of the road? It does not. The screen occupies visual space that was already below the hood sightline. The supply stand was designed to sit on a flat dashboard. The Ocean's dash slopes, so the screen wanted to fall forward, and the stand created too much height and too much gap. That meant the mount needed to become part of the project. I modeled the first bracket in Tinkercad based on the foam core pieces and printed it in PLA to prove the geometry. It reuses the Carpuride's original adjustable connector and wedges onto the narrow space between the dashboard and the factory driver display housing. The current mount is held by compression and friction. A closed vehicle in Southern California can get much hotter than PLA appreciates. The final bracket will be PETG, with rounded corners, larger fillets, cleaner contact surfaces, and a better hidden cable path. So you can see the screen, and it's leaning forward a bit because that prototype was made out of PLA, and it uses the screw in the back that comes with it. So all I needed to do was create something that can screw into it and hold it in place. So you can see this is again the prototype. It is held in there with friction, but you can see the heat caused it to soften, and it started leaning forward. But this is the actual, and this narrows as it comes down, so you can put this in here and then slide it in to where it's at the center. And you see it's a little bit different, a little wider base for a little bit more stability. And this screw here just needs to go in that back slot. I can feel it. I do. And then this came with the monitor, and I just 3D printed the bracket. So that slides in there. For power, I used a fused out-of-fuse jumper at RF35, the circuit associated with the rear USB supply. A hardware converter changes the vehicle's 12 volts to USB-C power for the Carpuride. That keeps the center console USB ports available and lets the power cable disappear behind the driver display. Alright, so I need to run a power cable from here to the fuse box It's always scary taking this off. All right, so I'm just going to run this from underneath through this opening here without disturbing the two switches for the T-box. Just getting the connector through. The only permanent wired connection to the Carpuride is power. Navigation data comes wirelessly from the phone. Bluetooth handles the initial connection. Wi-Fi carries the Android Auto or CarPlay interface, and the phone supplies GPS, maps, live traffic, and cellular data. Once the map was in the correct location, the upper rim of the stock steering wheel became impossible to ignore. It crossed directly in front of the new navigation display. Then I looked at the Fisker wheel and realized the remaining lower structure already had the basic proportions of a yoke. I did not cut my installed wheel first. I bought a spare, installed it, and verified the controls, connectors, alignment, and airbag fit before changing the rim. Only after the spare worked as a normal wheel did it become the cutting candidate. Alright, so I know my spare steering wheel works that I got off of eBay. What I did is I cut it right here. I want to probably cut it flush. I'm not sure if I want to leave a little nub there. Removal is not the main point of this episode, but the sequence is worth showing quickly. The airbag module comes out, the electrical connectors are disconnected, the wheel and shaft alignment are marked, and the center fastener is removed. I want to get it installed so I can test how it works, and then somehow I got to figure out not to turn on my heated steering wheel, because I did see wire fibers, if you will. So this, you just push in, and you just see it, just a slight little nudge. Get that out of the way so you can reach the... Alright, so to remove the yellow cable, or to remove the yellow, you can see a slot right there. You don't press there, but along here, you just slide this down, and you see the release is activated, and then kind of just wiggle it out, and the whole thing comes. So what I was doing is reaching in and just pushing this down for the release, and it came out rather easily. I have not done this yet, but here we go. Doesn't take too much effort. So you can see that mark right there. There's a mark right there. So I didn't have to mark it myself. Here is the, what do you call it? Looks like you gotta push on this guy right here. That's underneath. So you gotta push in from this direction, looks like. Alright, so let's take this out. So I'm just pushing it. I'm actually using like a screwdriver action here to push it up. Oh yeah, I think this is just too easy. Okay, this is an overview of what I did, not a substitute for the proper service procedure. With the spare removed, the steering wheel was secured to a makeshift workbench using an advanced clamping system consisting of my left hand and operator. This is not the recommended fixture arrangement. It is, however, the arrangement that happened. I cut through the top section of the rim. The first cut was deliberately conservative. It is easy to remove more material later. It is considerably harder to put steering wheel back. Under the leather and foam, I found a metal wheel structure and a conductive mesh for the heated steering wheel. Cutting the rim also cuts that heating element. This Yoke prototype gives up normal heated wheel operation. An exposed conductive material must be isolated before the ends are closed. This is what it looks like. So there's like a L-shaped bar that goes all the way around that you have to cut through. Now, again, I'm going to cut this a little more flush. I originally expected to move another couple of inches from each side and bring the ends close to the horizontal spokes, but the remaining factory cover created a natural shoulder and a natural end cap line. Once I saw it in the vehicle, Cutting lower would have gained very little visibility and caused useful shape and hand support. The first pass established a shape, and I made a second finishing pass, but the basic form is complete. The modified spare went back on using the original alignment marks. The steering wheel connectors and factory airbag module were reinstalled. The airbag module itself was not cut, covered, or cosmetically altered. The modification is to the outer wheel rim, but that still makes this a safety-critical prototype. With the yoke installed, both screens are now visible from the driver's seat. The factory display handles speed and vehicle information. The Carpuride handles Google Maps. The yoke is not just a styling change, it opens the sightline and made the navigation display placement worthwhile. The test drive answered the main mechanical layout question. The screen stays in place, the top edge remains below my road sightline, and the yoke opens a clear view of both displays. The navigation screen now sits in my sightline and larger, cleaner, and easier to read. Can't say enough about how much I like this. Before, Google Maps lived on a phone mount. After, the map has a dedicated display, the factory cluster remains visible, and the yoke leaves an open window through the cockpit. Mechanically, the concept works. Audio routing is the part I am still refining. When one phone claims Android Auto, the Carpuride tends to claim navigation and media audio, and its built-in speaker is not where I want to hear music. I connected my Pixel 7 to the Carpuride for maps, and my Pixel 9 directly to the Fisker for music. That separated the systems. The Ocean played high-quality music through its speakers, while the Carpuride gave a simple navigation gong. I may use my service-connected business iPhone as a dedicated navigation phone and keep the Pixel 9 paired directly to the car. The prototype has proven the placement, the sightline, the basic bracket geometry, the hidden power route, and the value of the yoke opening. It has not yet proven long-term heat resistance, vibration durability, final upholstery, final audio behavior, or regulatory acceptance. The factory-style solution would be full Android Auto integration on the center screen. This is not that. This is a simpler modular solution. The Fisker remains the vehicle computer, the phone remains the navigation computer, and the Carpuride becomes a navigation display. The yoke makes that display usable. This video shows my prototype and my decision process. Cutting or removing a steering wheel involves steering control, electrical connections, the wheel heater, and the airbag system. You don't treat a past montage as complete instructions or as proof that the modification is appropriate for another vehicle, driver, or jurisdiction. Next, I need to decide whether the dedicated navigation device will be the Pixel 7, the business iPhone, or my main phone with better audio routing. Then I can live with the system long enough to see what the prototype missed. Would you rather keep the small shoulders at the top of the yoke or cut the ends flush with the horizontal spokes? And for navigation, would you use one phone for everything or a dedicated phone for the Carpuride so music and calls stay completely separate? The Ocean should have had modern phone integration from the factory until the software solutions catches up. This gives me Google Maps where I can see it and a cockpit that makes better use of the available space. If you want to see the final PETG mount, finished yoke, and long-term test, launch a YouTube algorithm for me.